You are now in touch with the compensatory concept, and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. We're going to be speaking with, in a few moments, the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, Mr. Neely Fuller. It is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. Thank you again for listening. In a few moments, after we have a session with Mr. Neely Fuller, we're going to entitle it Neely Fuller Speaks. We will have you, or I will give you the numbers in which you can call in, or I will give you the Gmail address which you can write me, and hopefully we can read your letters on the air. When I came in this morning, I was told, and I am very glad to announce this, but we have met our donation goal. So I and Mr. Fuller would like to take this opportunity to thank you, the listeners, for your support. You wanted us to go 2 hours, and you put your money where your mouth is. And so now I don't have to mention that anymore until next year. But again, thank you for your support. This is truly your show, and we'd like to say thank you again. The title of today's show is going to be The Importance of Correctiveness, or Correctness, if that is a word. As you often know, Mr. Fuller often talks about the importance of words. In fact, when you write into to get your copy of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept book, he often talks about an additional word guide, which will also help you. Today, as we talk with Mr. Fuller, we're going to start off with a letter that was written by a person in a foreign country, and I'm going to read it. I'm not going to give the person's name, but you'll find it interesting. So let me start off by saying good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning, and I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Good. What we're going to have you focus in on today is this letter and about correctness. And let me read it from you. Like I said, I'm not going to mention the person's name, but he called it constructive criticism. And this is what it says. Hello, Mr. Bobby. I am a faithful listener from England. I am a non-white male, age 39. I am originally from the island of Jamaica and have lived there for 15 years. Lived here for 15 years. I don't have a question because Mr. Fuller has answered them all, sometimes before I even form the question completely in my mind. I do, however, have an issue I would like you to raise with Mr. Fuller. My copy of the textbook workbook has a spelling error in the first line of page 95. The word is rainy is replaced with the word rainy. Now, the first one he has, it's spelled R-A-N-I-N-E-Y. It says, could you have Mr. Fuller to correct this in the forthcoming updated version of the textbook? White supremacists will use every opportunity to discredit this work, and we cannot allow this to happen if we can help it. Thank you for your time, and hopefully one day I will be able to speak to yourself and Mr. Fuller about producing justice here in England and worldwide. Thanks again. This comes from Brother Cleve. Mr. Fuller, I looked at that on page 95, and just the first line says, on a cold, rainy, R-A-N-E-Y, day, a black slave may feel comfortable in the warm kitchen of a white master. Since he brought that up to my attention, speak to the word rainy, or the use of correct English.
Use of correct English is very important, but there are such things as typographical errors when things get translated from what I write to someone who is supposed, to catch these errors, and the person is correct, and I can understand any black person who is in English and who has gone to some of the English schools would be probably be real sensitive to any corruption or any misspellings or any misuse of sentence structure and all like that in the English language, and I can understand that. I've made more errors than that. Someone called out to me that, and I've overlooked this all down through the years, so they didn't give me the page number, but the word religious in this textbook is also misspelled in another place. And the white supremacists will use that. They will say this person is unlettered, this person hasn't been to our schools, and if he did, he must have been a dropout, so therefore he's disqualified all the way around to say anything about anything. So that would be the way that a lot of people would look at it, because in academia, if you're not letter perfect in everything, just about, particularly if you're presenting yourself in a literary form, it just so happens that usually your credibility in anything that you say becomes non-existent, and I can understand that. And so I try to do the best that I can, but then I see even in some of the leading newspapers every day, I see corrections being made about something that was done on the day before. And so I don't use that as sort of an excuse. It's just that it's very seldom that books, and it's been my experience, very seldom that I find any errors, particularly in spelling of words, in any book that I pick up. Usually they have what they call the proofreaders. I've never had what you call a professional proofreader working with me, and that's probably what I need. So there will probably be, for a little while, until I can get this thing cleaned up, there'll probably be some errors that are found. Other people have pointed this out. They'll probably find some more. But like I only found out about that misspelling of the word religious, just about 2 months ago. And this book came out in 1984. And somebody pointed out to me. Now, probably people were seeing it all the time, but they just brushed it off and said, well, hey, this guy, I don't know. He can't get it. He's talking about word guides and all like that, and he can't even get the spelling correct. But I do what I can, and sometimes when I'm writing, because I write in longhand or just on ordinary paper, I don't even use a computer.
Yes, sir.
I'm not that skilled. I'm old school. I write everything in longhand. Sometimes, I might leave out a letter and a word or something like that, and I tell people to double check behind me when they type it up.
Yes, sir.
Because but sometimes they miss it. All right, and then sometimes depends on who's handling the work at the time. They may not know any better.
Yes, sir.
Because they are not, you might call practice proofreaders. Where they catch all these things like closed quotes.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes,
right.
sir. Let me say this before we get back to that. Callers, don't call in yet. I will give you the name or the time when we are able to receive your calls. I'm not going to ignore you, but right now it's important that we get this particular information out. So don't call in yet. I will give you the time, and then I will give you the email address where you can call in. We're not going to ignore your call, but don't call in yet because we need to get this straight. Okay, Mr. Fuller, when I first heard this now and read it, I thought that maybe this was, not good on this person's part to be pointing out something that is so trivial. But when I spoke to the group about this and discussed this, I was made to understand that as you were stating, that words are very important. One of the examples was was given out. Just take the word "to" as we know it as "to," but there are here in America there are different ways that you can say that. You can say "to." TWO, or you can say TOO or TO. They all have different types of meanings, and so when you are writing, as you do, and you just stated that you do it in longhand, it helped me to understand that that the proper use of words are very important, as you have stated. Now, I don't know the culture down in Jamaica, and how they do, but what is the history behind the teachings that went on in Jamaica?
Well, it's just my guess, because I've talked to people who are from overseas, and that's black people who were taught in English schools, and particularly people in the UK. They speak much better English than what we call American English. I mean, maybe that should be taken into account. In fact, a lot of white people say that, other white people don't speak real English. I mean, that they corrupted the language to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
But that's maybe the use of words, and and they say they're real sloppy. I mean, they're just murdering. I heard back when I was in elementary school that there was an expression called the King's English, and that very few people can speak the King's English, and that everybody should speak the King's English, because, after all, the King is the King, and so you're doing everything razor sharp proper when you start talking about the kingdom.
Yes, sir.
Or the king, English kings, because they believe in fine detail, and everything has to be done just so, with razor-sharp precision.
Mm-hmm.
And even in some movies during World War II, I'm thinking about a movie called D-Day, the 6th of June, and some English lady is talking to a quote-unquote American soldier, and say, and she's implying that you people are so sloppy about everything. I mean, you're just sloppy. I mean, you're not precise. You don't have any manners. You're just crude, you're just backward, really.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, the black people who are raised up here under what other white people say is a kind of a backward society.
Yes, sir.
I mean, from what you might call old Europe, black people naturally coming up from the plantations here and whatnot, they just copy off of what you might call some of the high y'all type white people. Who are in the South. I mean, because even black people used to make jokes about other black people who were raised in the South.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, they call them what? Bamas.
Yeah, Bamas.
You talk like a Bama. I mean, why don't you learn how to talk? I mean, man, I can't understand nothing that you're saying.
Okay.
This here and that there, and my goodness.
Yeah, I've heard that before. So you were not offended by this I guess you could say constructive criticism or whatever. It did not offend. Is that correct?
Oh, anytime someone corrects anything, I use this word correctness myself.
Yes.
Always do the best that you can in anything that you're doing.
Okay.
In anything that you're doing. If you're threading a needle, try to do it the best possible way that a needle can be threaded by anybody, anywhere in the universe. Because I always say we are supposed to be heading toward the type of people that we ought to be. Because the codified position here, according to the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, the codified outlook is that no people on the planet, no people, not one person, is the quality of person that a person should be. According to what? According to what standard? The standard that never has been in recorded history anyway. In other words, we're supposed to be the ultimate people, and black people should be the pioneers in that, because we're such despised people as being people who are just about as raggedy in every way that you can think of, in every area of activity.
Yes, sir.
We got raggedy minds. Everything about us is just as ragged as it can be, and that, we're people not to be paid any attention to at all, except just to be completely despised.
Okay.
Because we're just completely worthless, not about anything that anybody should pay any attention to that's got any sense at all.
Okay.
So, starting from that platform, we should be evolving into what I call universal man, universal woman,
right,
with all of the ultimate qualities that would go into making that person the type of person that a person ought to be.
Which would include correctiveness. Okay.
Yes, which would include doing everything in the best possible manner. Everything.
Okay. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here's one that I would like to share with you, and it is called This is Libby. Now, Libby is all about empowering women through health, wellness, and a positive mindset. This is Libby deals with the social culture, politics, and the economics in the healthcare and wellness industry. Now come, get liberated with an expert in the field of health and wellness. Miss Libby Rand broadcasts Mondays exclusively here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. Now for Neely Fuller Speaks. Mr. Fuller, as we go on, what has come to your mind that you would like to discuss or talk about?
Well, just briefly, someone called in last week. Sometimes I can't get all my thoughts together when someone asks a question about the economics. What should black people be doing now about trying to get themselves in some type of economic stability? Well, it's hard to predict because I want to elaborate on that, because even among the white people of the world, like recently you had this economic shake-up.
You mean Brexit?
Yes, that we call in England and in the UK. So that's going to put question marks over everybody's head all over the world. A lot of white people, and certainly the non-white people. And then when it drops down to the level where black people are, we're always in a quandary about what economics is all about, because we have very little of a handle or very little information on anything that has to do with money. And so we have to do a lot of guessing. But some fundamental things we can do, and that is, for sure, cut down on all unnecessary spending, period. Do that right now, particularly doing all these question marks, dealing with who's going to be buying and selling what, and stock markets, going haywire all over the place and whatnot. Just start belt tightening. These are just what you might call country road formulas that have usually worked to the best degree, considering what you have to work with. Just do some belt tightening and stop buying anything for show-off purposes. Of course, that should be a perennial anyway. That should be something that you do all the time. Black people all over the world, just get out of that show-off business, buying stuff to show off, to go and strut up and down around other people, particularly just people that you consider to be your quote-unquote peers, and look what I have. Come and see what I have. Come and see what I've been able to get, by doing this and doing that. And I paid this for that. This is real expensive. Come and look at it. And I have it. And so pay attention to it, and then pay attention to me, because I'm the one who has it. And then, just strutting around, showing off whatever it is you possess. Whether it's a vehicle or a house or your clothing or bragging about how much money you got or anything like that. No. Always take the position that whatever I have, I don't have enough of what I should have in order to do the things that need to be done. Okay. And I'm not in the show-off business ever for 5 minutes about anything. That should be cemented in every non-white person's mind on this planet.
Okay. All righty. I guess that we can now open the phone lines, and they are going to be open. So we're going to have the phone lines open, and we are also going to read your emails. So you can call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I think I might be able to get you in. We are kind of stacked up on Gmails, but we will see what's going on. We're going to take a call, and then we'll get to your book. Line number one. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Yes, my question is, often Mr. Neely Fuller says if you don't have anything constructive to say, then you shouldn't say anything at all. And I noticed that in white corporate America, if you're in the hood wing of the white corporate America, and what I mean by that is the part of white corporate America where they fit all the black people isolated from the white people, I noticed that if I just talk about constructive things or not at all, the black people will look at me as weird and, try to sabotage me, try to get rid of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, what is Mr. Fuller's thoughts on that?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Well, if someone doesn't particularly care for what you are saying, because we're talking about interaction between people on a daily basis, just ask questions. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers.
Yes, sir.
And if you're sitting and talking to someone at a luncheon or whatever it is, and someone says, "Well, I don't like the things that you're saying or if they imply it," then just ask, "Well, what do you want me to say, sir?"
But that's the thing. There's a lot of non-constructive actions as well, but often the times they won't tell you to your face that they don't like what you're saying. They will smile along and go along with it, but then behind closed doors, when they go to the supervisor to say, "Hey, I don't like that person. He's weird. He's too quiet because he don't talk. He's too weird." Or, he's talks about that other stuff, etc. Or he doesn't go out to go smoking with us or something, smoking some weed or something. Now you're going to be sabotaged by other black people in a system of white supremacy in the white corporate America.
Mr. Fuller?
It's still the same thing. I mean, you come down to what is it, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, what is it that we're supposed to be doing here? That would be an improvement over what we have been doing. That's a question. You can ask that question every day. Ladies and gentlemen, what is it that we should be doing here? We're here for a reason. That we are not doing, what is it we should be doing that would be an improvement over what we have been doing here? Because usually people are looking for improvements. They say that in every so-called corporate structure, looking for improvements over what we have been doing. Well, what would those improvements consist of?
Yes.
So if somebody says, "Well, okay, I got an idea. Since you're so uptight and all like that, we need to loosen up and smoke some weed." And then you say, "Okay, I'll consider that, but I have a question, sir. I have a question, ma'am. Is that an improvement?" Since we're always talking about improving here. I mean, which way do we really go? Do we really know what we're doing? I mean, that sounds like a contradiction, but maybe it isn't. So then you ask them, like I said, questions and answers.
Yes.
Do you think that would be an improvement over our corporate image? And let the world know that this is what we're all about. Smoking weed is what this corporation is all about. I mean, and the people who are running the corporation, that's what when we go out, whatever going out means. What do you mean by going out of the corporation? I mean, ask questions about this. What do you mean by going out? I mean, I think we are all in the corporation.
Yes.
Unless, and I've always borrowed this from the movie Casablanca, unless I've been misinformed.
Okay.
You know, you always add that to whatever you say.
To what you say.
You know, you say unless, when you make a suggestion or something, you say, well, this is something I think we should be doing.
Unless.
Or when you ask a question about something, then you say, I thought that this is what we were supposed to be doing, unless I have been misinformed. So therefore, you all inform me.
Yes.
Just inform me what you all want me to do, and I'll tell the whole world. This is what we're really all about.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, caller, for your call. Let's go to line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Good morning. I hope I get this right. But last week, there was a caller who called in and was asking a series of questions. But the main question was regarding how they should respond to, I believe it was Mr. Fuller's response to the caller in explaining how would he should respond to someone if he asks, how come I don't have a job, or how come I don't have this or that. And what Mr. Fuller said was explain to them that it's because of the system of white supremacy. Something to that extent. I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but that was the gist of it. And my response to that is, I think that's a good response to have to someone who has those type of questions. However, what I find out here, and I think most of us can attest to this, is that most people asking those type of questions, such as, how come I don't have a job, or how come this exists or that exists, they're not going to give them the response of, because of the system of white supremacy, or something along those lines. What they're going to tell them typically is something along the lines of, it's because you don't work hard enough. It's because you're lazy. It's because of this, that, and the other. But it will seldom, if ever, have anything to do with the system of racism and white supremacy. And so I think the only solution to such a thing is for more people to become informed, to read your book, to listen to this program, and to become familiar with these principles and concepts. Okay. Because otherwise, most people who are not aware and who ask these questions to the general person, whether that's someone in their family, a close associate, or friend, will be something along the lines of, particularly if it's pertaining to a job or some of that sort, will be, it's because you're not doing enough. You're not working hard enough.
Okay, let Mr. Fuller respond to it. Mr. Fuller?
If I understand the question, yes, when people tell you you're not, see, here again, questions and answers. So if a person makes a statement about something that you are doing or not doing that you should be doing or should not be doing, then you follow that up with further questions, because, as they say, the truth is in the details. You know, there's an old expression, the devil is in the details, but the truth is in the details too. That's how you get to the truth. So you just follow up one question with another. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. Don't get away from that. And it might be just 10 questions and answers, and it might be 10,000 questions and answers. You don't put any limit on the questions and on the answers until you finally get the final answer to all of the questions, to every possible question. So if a person says you're not working hard enough, then you have another question. What's the logical question? I'm not working hard enough doing what? What is it I'm supposed to be doing that I'm supposed to be working hard at? Because then I'll get to it if you can tell me what it is that I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not doing.
Identification.
Yes, in other words, go into the details. Just what field should I be in? I mean, maybe I'm studying the incorrect thing. So tell me what if you're saying that, if you're saying I'm studying the incorrect things in order to make money, then tell me what are the things that I should be studying. Give me some type of detailed guidance. Just don't, condemn me and then walk away and say I'm not working hard enough. Working hard enough at doing what? How? When? Who do I contact? Do you give me some phone numbers of some people to call? See, ask for the details. Because people, it's real easy to sit back and just say, that's an old cliche. Well, you got to work hard. Yeah. If you want to be successful, work hard. You students here in this class, you got to work hard. I mean, if you work hard, everything will eventually come to you. And then fold up the books and walk out. No, wait a minute. Come back in here. Work hard at doing what? I mean, page by page, line by line. Tell me exactly what to do that will make me a, quote, success. Do you know, sir? And if you don't, please say so.
Okay. All right.
I completely agree.
All right.
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you for your call there, caller.
Thank you.
All righty. Mr. Fuller, before we go to break here, talk about your book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, the latest updates and whatever information that it will be available.
Well, the latest update on the revised, expanded edition of the book, you can go to Produce Justice right now.
Right.
And it should be there. I've been informed of that as of last night.
Okay.
I'm looking at the old copy myself right here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it still has a lot of excellent stuff in it, despite the misspelling of rainy and religious. It might be one or two others in there. But, and it might be some in the new book. I have to look at that and see.
But we can get it right
now. Go to producejustice.com, and you'll see the revised, expanded edition of the new book there, along with the word guide that's already out there, the 2010 edition.
All righty. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evening. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We're going to have more of your questions and more emails or Gmails coming up next.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. You can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And you can call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. We started out the program speaking of correctness, the importance of it, words, and we will revisit that beginning the second hour. Don't forget to tell your friends that we are on now from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. on Wednesdays. And that is because this is what you wanted to do. You wanted us to go 2 hours, and now we have, and not only that, but you put your money where your mouth is. You wanted it, and you support it. And we wanted to say thank you so much because you did that. You did that. Thank you. This program is important to a lot of people worldwide, and donations came in from all over the world, not just here in the so-called United States in the Northwestern Hemisphere, but you did that. So we want to thank you for that. So, again, you can call in with your questions or comments, and we will be happy to get those out, to you so that you'll so that we can read that to you. Don't forget that Mr. Fuller had just indicated that you can now get the book. It is ready online if you go to producejustice.com. The book is up and it is ready to go. And there's also an additional word guide that you can get for an additional purchase with the book, and that will help you in your knowledge of racism, white supremacy, what it is, and how it works. I got a note that some have had problems in getting online. I understand that we are here at TalkTainmentRadio.com working on the problem, and it should be solved by next week. Some people can't get access to it, but we are working on that problem. We are aware, and we thank you for bringing it up. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Good morning. My question is, I want to ask Dr. Fuller if he thinks there was a difference in how the media and people treated the parents of the child that fell over the gorilla in Cincinnati, as opposed to how the media treated the parents of the child that was snatched by the alligator in Orlando. The father of the little boy at Cincinnati's criminal record got dragged through the mud, and he wasn't even with the little boy. They wanted to charge the parents. They called him unfit. It was just ugly. The media was ugly with it. So I want to know, how does he feel about how the media treated both parents, and does he think it's fair?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
I am not familiar with the cases that she's talking about, but you always make up your own mind, with this thing called the media. And that includes everything that I write. Always when you read anything or hear about anything, be suspicious about the way it's reported and all like that. Always try to think about things in depth, because there's a lot of misinformation that gets out on everybody's part. Sometimes inadvertently. Sometimes it's not intentional on the parts of many reporters and writers. And then sometimes it is. In fact, some people have been fired from the staff of major newspapers because they made up stories.
Oh, okay.
Yes, quite a few people.
Now, in the system of racism and white supremacy, which is what we are in, you sometimes refer to it as the prison system, and then you make reference to the Shawshank Redemption. In this system, in regards to the media, this type of behavior, is it expected to have something slanted one way or the other?
Always, always. Why? Because the chief strategy of the white supremacists is deception backed up by direct violence. Deception is a form of violence if it does unjust harm to people. So they have always depended on fooling people, saying things that are not true, spreading lies. I mean, they do this all the time. They have to. You can't stay in the business of white supremacy without saying things that are not true.
Yes, sir.
And just in everyday transactions and whatnot, we've taken it for granted. If you get a car repaired, you're going to get cheated. I mean, we all taught that. Both, black people are taught that that this is normal. This is normal way of doing business. If you're buying a house, you're going to get cheated. If you're getting ready to sell one, you've got to jump through a lot of hoops and all like that, a lot of paperwork. And in that paperwork, they have such a thing as, and it's very commonly accepted, is in all major paperwork, they have a cliche saying that goes way back, and everybody's kind of familiar with it in the English language, and that is what? Small print.
Yes.
Read the small print. Now, why is the print small? The print that is really important, whatever's telling you in that contract, should be very bold.
Yes.
That is, if you're trying to be honest, all the things that can get you in trouble and whatnot should be in great, big, bold letters. But usually they hide that somewhere, on the back page of something or another, of the entire contract. Almost use it like a footnote. And then you have to have 5 or 6 magnifying glasses to be able to read it. And even when you do read it, it's a lot of what people have come to call, an old cliche saying, double talk.
Yes.
And sometimes triple and quadruple talk. So that you just throw up both hands and say, well, I'm not going to read all this, because even if I do read it, I don't understand anything about it. All right.
So in the system, let me get this straight. So in the system of racism and white supremacy, which is what we should always be focused on, because there is no system of justice, we can expect the behavior of the media or whoever to be to mistreat people of color.
Oh, you can always expect mistreatment.
Okay.
That's what the system of white supremacy is designed for. It's designed to do 2 things: dominate and mistreat people based on color. Very simple.
Okay.
That's what the system of white supremacy is.
Okay. All righty. All right. Well, anything else, ma'am?
No, that's it. But I thank you for your answer, because now it makes sense to me.
Okay. Thank you very much for your call. All righty. All right. Let's go to the Gmails. Here's one that says, Mr. Bob, Mr. Fuller, my name is my name is Angie, and I have a question that I would like to, or concern that I would like to raise with you or Mr. Fuller. I emailed you over a year ago about a damaged book that I received. Mr. Fuller, I just never heard what I should do. And now I wanted to purchase the Word Guide in the new book and wanted to know if Mr. Fuller would be willing to discount my purchase of my second book. I don't know what to do. Thank you for your help, Angela.
Well, send that to through go to producejustice.com and register that in there, and I'll see what can be done through those channels, because I haven't been getting these reports, and there might be some sabotage going on. I strongly suspect that, or it might be just one of those things where it's just some books that have gotten through shipment or something like that. I mean, that would damage. But I haven't heard any major reports like that. And I would like for it to be handled through those channels until I can find out what's going on. I haven't heard any substantial reports of this type of thing happening. I've heard of some people saying it. See, so maybe that needs to be looked into. See, I'm not handling everything. I mean, I don't have a hands-on facility for everything that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't print the books myself. I'm not in the printing business. I've never even been to the site where the books are printed or where they are bound.
Yes, sir.
I've never even been to the town where this is happening. So sometimes people have I guess the idea that as the author of the book, that I'm right there standing at the printing presses and whatnot, and I'm standing there when the people box up the stuff and ship it here and there, and I'm not.
Okay.
And so sometimes in some settings I am, because I used to handle a lot of things myself, but I was never involved in the printing and the binding directly.
Okay.
I've never even seen it done. See, so, but these are factors that I have to look into.
Okay.
But I can only look into it as people call it my attention.
Okay. Thank you, Angela, for your question. And Mr. Fuller gave his response, so now you know what to do. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We are basically been talking about the importance of correctness. That will be the theme through this first hour and also through the second hour. So if you have any questions, you can call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you may Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Going to the Gmails, we have a question from Daryl. He says, Mr. Fuller, you say that non-whites are children under the system of white supremacy, but in a way, aren't white supremacists the real children of the world, given that they don't behave like upstanding adults by bullying and mistreating people? If so, would it help non-whites in a way to come to this possible realization? And then how would it help? Thanks again, and I appreciate your time, Daryl.
I'm trying to get to the epicenter of that question.
Well, basically, he said, you say that non-whites are children under the system of white supremacy, but in a way, aren't the white supremacists the real children of the world, given that they don't behave like upstanding adults by their actions of bullying and mistreating people?
That the white supremacists are what now?
Are really the children by the way that they do their bullying and mistreating of people.
Really what? really upsetting.
No, really, the real children. Instead of blaming non-whites as being the children, they being the white people are the real children of the world.
The real children of the world?
Yeah, because he says that you say that non-whites are children under the system of white supremacy, but in a way aren't the white supremacist the real children of the world.
The real children of the world.
Yeah, that's what he has written down here or typed in down here.
Well, if we're talking about maturity, when you say children, the white supremacists are much more mature than their victims. That's just, otherwise, what does that say about the victims? If, the white supremacists are much more mature, much more sophisticated, much more knowledgeable. They are the grown-ups. And the victims of this grown-up system, which is a system of mistreatment, are the non-white people of the planet. Otherwise, the non-white people would not be victims. And sometimes people even have problems with me using the word smart. They said that white supremacists are not smart. It is evil. Well, now, a dumb, evil person is not going to be in the dumb, evil business very long if they're around a lot of smart people. That's the equation. There's no way to squirm around that. People who are not knowledgeable, smart means knowledgeable. It means being able to figure things out, being able to get things done, being able to do what you want to do and other people don't know how to stop you. Now, that may be what you might call evil, but the person is knowledgeable. No one can dominate you if you are smarter than that person that's trying to dominate you. Why? Because you're smarter. That's just the mechanics of it.
Wait a minute.
Down through the years, a lot of black people have looked at this situation as being so hopeless that what we have done, we have gone into that fox and the grape syndrome, as they call it. In other words, saying, well, I know what I'll do. Since I don't know how to beat this system, I'm going to pretend that I'm smarter than my master. In other words, that's just like the prisoner saying, hey, the warden is dumb. He's the dumbest person on the planet. And I'm the smartest person in the cell block.
Okay. But now he has written in here bullying and mistreating people. Isn't that a characteristic of a child to sometimes bully and mistreat people?
Well, you can look at it that way, but that doesn't keep you from being bullied and mistreated. You can certainly say that. But the white supremacist said, well, hey, I am a very mature person, and I am going to dominate and mistreat you because I have the intelligence to do so. And you are not intelligent enough to outfox me in what I'm doing. That's what it comes down to. And any time that you think you are, just keep trying. Because so far you haven't proven it. You might tell yourself that you're smarter than me, but you haven't proven it. Because you still do what I tell you to do. So what does that say about you? If you're smarter than me and you're listening to a dummy, does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this then on his question. So the codified response would it not be to help non-whites in a way to come to the possible conclusion that the white supremacists are really children?
No, the white supremacists, you can say that all people are children, that nobody's mature. I mean, you just really want to blanket it.
Okay.
If you want to make yourself feel better, but that doesn't change your condition.
Okay.
You can just say that all people are, and really the code takes the position that compared to what all people should be, everybody's immature.
Okay.
All right? But we're in a system of white supremacy,
right. Yeah,
where the white supremacists said, oh, if you black people say, well, these white supremacists, they don't know everything, well, the white supremacists will say, yeah, you're correct. I know very little compared to everything that there should be known. But I'll tell you what, I know more than all you black people put together.
Okay.
Why? Because you all are all subject to me.
To me.
And I am not subject to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even my equal. I tell you what to do. You don't ever tell me what to do, and I got to do it. You ask me. But I demand what you do and can back it up. Now, if I'm dumb, if I'm immature, if I'm a child, and I can do that to you, I got a question, you black people. What does that say about you? That here's an immature, childish person that's dominating you. So what does that say about you?
Got it.
See what I mean by questions?
Yeah.
I mean, the truth comes out.
Okay.
There's no way to squirm around that.
Okay. So then it is imperative that we understand at all times that we are in a system of racism and white supremacy. And within that system, the racist or white supremacists are going to make sure that they bully or dominate you or whatever, or mistreat you or anything, because we are in that system. That's the way that it is. We have to understand that.
Even if we put it in the context of a school ground bully, if that school ground bully is dominating the school, telling the teachers what to do, the principal what to do, and knocking all the children around all day long, every day,
okay,
I got a question. Anybody should have a question. How does the school ground bully, with his ignorant self, outsmart all of those people in the school, including the principal and all the teachers, and terrorizing all of the students, and has taken over the school? What does that say? Not about the bully. What does that say about the principal, the teachers, the wardens, the law enforcement officers who are there, and all of the students put together? And that one school ground bully got them all under his thumb or her thumb. What does that say about them? That's the question.
That is the question. Wow. That is the question. As we come just about to the close of this hour, we're going to hit it again on the beginning of the second hour. We spoke starting off the program about correctness, and what is the importance of being correct in the system of racism and white supremacy, in particular with words?
The importance of being correct is try to do the correct thing, because the system of white supremacy is not correct. So if you're doing the correct thing, if you're, correctness just means being in balance with people and things and everything in the universe. And so that gets, somebody mentioned something about smoking weed and all like that. I mean, it's some corporate meeting or something, or some corporate party or something. Well, then the question is, if you're talking about correctness, you say, okay, is smoking weed correct? Some people say it is. They say, for medical purposes, I mean, it's a glorious thing that everybody should be smoking weed, and they'll be healthier people. Well, what you do is just not go with the slogan. You examine and see if that's true. Everything in counter-racist codification is about seeking the truth, just like we started off this conversation this morning about, hey, misspelling of words. Should words, if it's okay just to breeze right past a book that's supposed to be a word guide or something, and you got misspelled words, and you just keep misspelling them, is it okay? No, it's not okay. You correct that. You correct mistakes. People make mistakes. So if you're smoking weed at a corporate meeting, you say, is this constructive? Is this correct? Because how do you tell if something is correct or not? Mm-hmm. By the effect. That's the only way you can tell. So if you say, well, what is the history of smoking weed? What's the history of using cocaine? What's the history of sticking a needle in your arm with heroin in the needle and whatnot? What is the track record on that? Does it have a constructive effect over a period of time or a non-constructive effect? So if it's non-constructive, it's not correct. That's all. That's what that word correct means.
Gotcha.
What effect does it have? What you always go by the effect.
Always go by
So if
the
you see people just nodding off in the park, I mean, with a needle hanging out of their arm, and they're not doing any work, they're not repairing anything, they're just sitting there all day and just, looking glassy-eyed with a needle in their arm, you just ask a question. Is this constructive activity?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the way the whole world should be run? Is this what everybody should be doing all day, everywhere?
All righty. When you hear the music, you know what that means. That's just going to be the close of the first hour, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is on the line. Talk to him at radio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio, and you are in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. We were speaking about correctness. One of our listeners in England, by way of Jamaica, pointed out some errors that Mr. Fuller has had in the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept book. And he pointed it out, and Mr. Fuller addressed that. Mr. Fuller, so you have no problem, or do you have a problem if someone points out something that is incorrect? Are you offended if they look in there and they find something? What is your response to that?
Even not only you might call what they call typos, but any error in my judgment, ideas, the concept itself, may be a flawed concept. And if anybody detects that, point it out. This whole idea, this trip that we're on, this longest journey, I call it in the word guide, it's the longest journey. We haven't reached any point yet where we should be in any area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, or war. In any of the 9 areas of activity, none of the people of this planet, nowhere or anywhere close to the quality of people that we should be in each one of those areas of activity, or in all of them put together. We're not quality people. And I have that in capital letters in the word guide.
Yes, sir.
That should be the goal where we should be all striving to be, white people and non-white people.
Yes, sir.
To become the quality people that we ought to be.
Okay.
But you can look at this messy world the way that it is, and there's no quality there.
No
There are
quality.
qualities in some things that have been done, but in interactions between people, you can't say that there's any quality at all with all this strife that's going on.
So let's get this straight so that people will know. Neely Fuller Jr., I'm asking, has no question with criticism or constructive criticism.
Not only that, I invite it.
Whoa.
I invite it.
Why do you say that?
Why? Because, see, it's not really criticism of Neely Fuller. It's that the goal should be to do what? Become universal man and universal woman.
Yes, sir.
And you don't have anyone on this planet that's qualified, anywhere close to being qualified, to have those qualifications. And I have outlined them in the new book. Many of the qualifications, just basically, that we all should have. And most people don't have these qualifications. It's no one who is anywhere close to being qualified to be in tune with the universe as it should be in the minds of people who are really thinking about having vision.
Yes, sir.
All right? So no one is qualified. You don't have a universal man or a universal woman anywhere on this planet, white or non-white. Nowhere close. But this should be our goal. We should try to be something something better than what we are.
Yes, sir.
And not only just better, we should actually try to be the very acme, the very personification, you might say, of excellence, of constructive activity in everything. And not only that, a lot of people say, well, that sounds like a world that's kind of mechanical and takes all the feeling out of everything and all like that. It takes all the juice out of the substance of an orange. I mean, no, it doesn't. I envision it that it would do just the opposite. It would let us know. It would let us hear musical sounds in our head that we have never even heard before, never even conceived of. They say that in music there are only so many notes, and all music has to be in those notes. I'm saying that it might be could be some notes that we never even conceived of. No one has ever heard them. I mean, new sounds altogether.
Yes, sir.
That goes beyond anything that we've ever heard. Maybe we're limiting ourselves. See, we have to at least think in that way.
I see.
It's called vision.
Vision. So you have no problem if somebody wants to write or call or he uses constructive criticism, but you have absolutely no problem. In fact, you said you welcome it.
A person called me the other day and using very vulgar language, also called me a charlatan. And so naturally I went into the question mode, what's a charlatan? And then the person told me, and then the person said, well, you're not quite a charlatan, but you're a little bit a charlatan. And meaning a phony, Well, if I'm doing something phony, point that out to Neely Fuller. If Neely Fuller if somebody thinks he's running a hustle or something like that, say, hey, Fuller, I believe you're running a hustle on people. I think you're exploiting people. I think you're appealing to their weaknesses and whatnot. I think you're doing this and doing that. I think you're really an agent of the white supremacists.
Wow.
If you think that, say so.
Okay.
And, and then point out some things that I'm doing or saying that maybe I shouldn't be doing or saying. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
I'm a person who is trying to be that universal man,
Okay.
and I haven't even gotten started of what I envision a universal man is.
Yes, sir.
Nowhere close. And I'd like to see somebody who is an example of one, but I have envisioned that so far away.
Okay. Let's take a phone call. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. Okay, I have a question for Mr. Fuller. So I'm a non-white male. I am in relationships. I'm in a relationship with a white female, and I have dated black females, so I don't exclude one or the other. I'm familiar with Mr. Fuller saying that non-whites should not have sexual relationships with whites because it is child abuse. I'm familiar with the approach. I have trouble saying to myself, okay, I no longer desire relationships with white women. I'm open to white and non-white. And that's causing a lot of tension in me. It feels like I have to go with black in order to combat racism. I'm wondering if Mr. Fuller has any suggestions how to resolve this inner tension. Just open to listen to what he has to say.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Yes. What you do is just the best you can. See, that's why it's called a United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. You don't have to check with Neely Fuller or anybody else. You listen to what I said, and then you evaluate it, and then you try to act accordingly to his suggestion. Otherwise, that's why he suggested it. He suggested that you do the best you can and try to back away from what you're doing. You may not make it, but that's up to you. Everything is up to the individual person. I'm trying to get this whole approach to solving the race problem through individual people acting individually each and every day according to his or her circumstances. See, so what you do, you just take that as a guide. Everything in the code book is just a basic guide, and you say, well, I'm going to try to do my best. Now, you may not. You may not even make a big effort, whatnot. But you should be trying to do it. Why? Based on logic, not what Fuller said, but say, is this helping to end racism, what I'm doing right now, or is it helping to give it more support? Now, the logic says that if you are a victim of racism and you're having sexual intercourse with a white person in the system of white supremacy, the logic says you're helping to strengthen the system of white supremacy as you weaken yourself in trying to oppose the system of white supremacy. A lot of people think, no, that's erroneous thinking, Fuller. It's just a reverse. Some people have said that. See, actually, the more black people have sexual intercourse with white people in this system, it's having a greater effect on eliminating racism than it is on giving it strength. Well, that would be so if we weren't in the system of white supremacy, because that means that the white supremacists are controlling how much of this sex takes place. That's where the problem is. They're in control. See, they're not just looking from the sidelines and saying, oh, well, woe is me. I mean, you got some black people out here having sexual intercourse with white people, and we don't like that. Yes, some of them will give lip service to that, but at the same time, they even allow it, and in some places, they promote it. Why? Because it's good for what? Good for business, as they say in a criminal enterprise.
Yes.
It's good for the business of white supremacy.
Okay.
I came to the conclusion, I used to think that if enough black people get in bed with enough white people, the race problem would disappear.
But you don't think that no more, do you?
I don't think that, because the white supremacists control it.
Okay.
See, that's where the problem is right there.
Okay.
So therefore, the black person actually becomes weaker, because it's like the prisoner having sexual intercourse with the prison guards and the warden.
Oh,
And
wow.
you're still a prisoner.
Yeah, you're still a prisoner.
Yeah, you're not unraveling anything. You think that you might be. Say, I'm getting next to him. No, you're being used.
You're being used.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
All righty. Let's go to line number 2. Okay, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, especially the black female would really get used in that situation there. Say, look, you guys, you got an error connection again on the computer. I'd like to hang on while Mr. Fuller answers the question there. I want to go over black politicians, judges, and prosecutors. You know, we see the Chaka Fattah just got convicted on 22 counts. A lot of black mayors that went down. You know, we're looking at this black judge in Baltimore letting these cops go. There was a black prosecutor in New York City that recommended that the Chinese cop get let off for gunning down a Kai Gurley for no reason at all in the building in New York. I mean, sometimes black people just come across as so treacherous. There's just nothing in it for 'em. I mean, even Dr. King had treacherous blacks working, his own people. You know, and
so your question would be what, sir?
Yeah, I'm making a statement. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, what can we do? What good does it do us to have a judge or a prosecutor? Certainly can't be on your side. And look at the Congress. I mean, 400 white men, 30 blacks, 20 Hispanic. What good does it do?
Okay.
You know, Mr. Fuller, so the white people got control. I mean, we got a black president, but everybody else is still white. So let me have a comment. I'll hang on while Mr. Fuller talks.
Okay,
there.
Mr. Fuller, your comment on his statement.
Well, people ask me when President Barack Obama, before he became president, was a presidential candidate, they asked me, was I going to vote for him because they anticipated that he might not help black people.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't expect him to, but I'm going to vote for him. They said, well, why are you going to vote for him and you don't expect him to be able to help black people? I said, for one thing, we're in the system of white supremacy. You always start with that. You're always in prison. And so if some black person is taken out of the cell and sent up to the warden's office, I mean, to do work in the warden's office like Andy Dufresne was in the movie Shawshank Redemption. That's just another black person working in the warden's office.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, but what's the advantage of that black person being there? Okay, if you look at the movie Shawshank Redemption by Mr. Andy Dufresne, working in the warden's office, he learned how the warden's office operated.
Okay.
Now, he wasn't able to help a lot of people in that position until toward the end of the movie. He helped a few, like the character played by Morgan Freeman, Red, and whatnot. But he also got himself out of that situation.
Yeah.
So, little by little, you do what you can. If you're inside the prison, you do what you can. Now, it's been proven that the more a black person moves up the so-called ladder in the system of white supremacy, just depict this. It's like being on the slave ship, and you're taken out of the bottom of the slave ship, and you're sent up to the captain's office to be the cabin boy. In other words, here I am, Neely Fuller. I've been taken out of the whole of the ship, and they brushed me off and cleaned me up, gave me some of the captain's old clothes, and they say, you're going to be the cabin boy now. You're going to bring the captain his coffee. You're going to shine his shoes. I mean, if they did any shoe shining back in those days. Or just be the gopher, all right? But you're going to breathe some fresh air, and you're going to get some better benefits because you're right there at the captain's stable, so you might get some crumbs from his stable, and that's better than the stuff you're eating down there in the hole. And if you don't want to do it, we'll just get another Negro and bring him up here. So that's no big deal. You're all slaves. So it's just a matter of whether or not you take that position, but you take the position with the understanding you're not going to be able to help a whole lot of people. You'll be able to help yourself. But you might be able to help one or two. You'll certainly be able to help more than you could help down in that hole. Because down in the hole, along with the other slaves, you're not getting nothing.
Yeah.
See what I mean? But if you're up there in the captain's cabin, I mean, you might learn something about navigation. You might learn something about where you are, whether you're in the middle of the ocean or whether you're close enough to an island that maybe you can send down a rumor maybe to the people down there who have gotten out of their chains and say, hey, tomorrow we're going to be pretty close to an island. And maybe you all can make a break for it.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
You can get information.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you, my brother, for your call. Talk Time Radio is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I would like to share with you, and it's called Boomers and Beyond. Sheila Garnes-Kennedy is the host of Boomers and Beyond, a show that explores topics that have to do with the issues that we all deal with, whether we're baby boomers or beyond. You want or you won't want to miss this Baby Boomers and Beyond, where you'll get valuable information on issues that impact our lives. Now, this particular show broadcasts on Monday exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. This is TalkTainmentRadio.com, and my name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We have been talking about correctness and the importance of. You've heard Mr. Neely Fuller say that he doesn't mind being corrected, doesn't mind criticism, if you will. In fact, he says he welcomes it. So, don't be shy or don't be scared, I guess is the colloquialism that people use now. Anyway, if you would like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will do my best to make sure that I read that. Got an email, Mr. Fuller, from Mr. Washington in Houston, Texas, and I'm going to try to read what he has written here. He says, I have two questions for Mr. Fuller. He says, number one, why are so-called black so-called conscious groups, when dealing with white supremacy, keep using terms like Illuminati, the system, the government, the white devil, white America, and or America, and not calling it for what it is, the system of white supremacy? He's asking that, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I'll just say what most people have told me. They don't like me to use the term white supremacy. They say, Fuller, you're giving them too much credit. That's the answer that I get. And I say, well, I'm not giving them anything except what I'm giving them, and that is what they already got, and that is a position of supremacy over me. They're not asking me for jobs. They're not asking me for housing. They're not asking me for health care. They're not asking me for money. They're not asking me for what the future is going to be. They're not asking me any of these things. I'm asking them.
Okay.
So that's why I use the term.
Okay.
Yes, I'm the prisoner. I'm not the warden.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of black people say, well, yeah, but you know, they're not supreme. Now we go into the question mode.
Yes.
Who is?
Who is?
And some people have answered me, God is supreme. And I say, oh, okay. God is supreme over whom? Over everybody, over white people and black people and all like that. I said, well, I didn't say anything about God's supremacy. I said something about white supremacy. White supremacy over whom? Over the people who are non-white. That's the equation.
That's the equation. Okay.
Yeah, we all have a God. The white supremacists say that. But the white supremacists also say, yeah, we have the same God. And like one white man said many years ago, he said, yes, I recognize God, and God recognizes me as being supreme over you, all you dark people. God put me in charge of you to do what I'm doing to you because you don't know what to do with yourselves.
Wow.
So therefore, God assigned me. Many a white person have said that at Ku Klux Klan rallies and all like that. That's why they use the cross even. They say, we're working for Jesus.
Woo.
We're working for God. And we don't just burn crosses, we light crosses to let people know that we're the best of Christians. And that in our Christian theology, God made a hierarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, that these little animals called black people should be dominated by somebody who's not an animal, which means us white people of this world.
Okay.
And if everybody just shut up and keep it like that, everything will work smoothly.
Yeah, right. He says in the second part, why do black people use terms like gay is the new black? I'm a black feminist. I'm for black sisterhood, etc. Thank you, Mr. Fuller, for answering my questions, and I'm still learning.
Well, I have said the usual suspects. That's the way I say it. I use that term. I got that term out of the movie Casablanca, the usual suspects. The usual suspects are the white supremacists. Why? Because all of this new terminology about something that's very old, and that is sexuality, I'm saying the white supremacists are using that to the hilt. To do what? Confuse.
Confuse, yes, sir.
Confuse the non-white people of this planet. And they are apparently, according to some of the plans of the white supremacists, and this is me saying this.
Okay.
The black female vagina and its value is to become obsolete.
What?
I'm going to say that again.
Yeah.
According to some of the plans of the white supremacists, in my opinion, according to some of the plans of the white supremacists, the black female vagina and its value, okay, is to be obsolete, and the white male anus is to be the new black vagina.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's the white supremacist long-range plan. I'm going to repeat that again.
Woo.
In my opinion.
Okay.
And you can go by the evidence. I mean, just look at all this stuff that's going on. Don't take Neely Fuller's word for nothing.
I got you.
Watch it. Apparently, according to some of the plans of the white supremacists, the black female vagina and its value is to become obsolete, and the white male anus is to be the new black vagina for black males. Now, add one more thing.
Okay.
Black females are directly or indirectly being taught that the holy grail of supreme sexual real estate is the white female vagina.
Oh,
I'm going to say that again. Black females are directly or indirectly being taught that the holy grail of supreme sexual real estate, I'm calling,
yes,
sex
sir.
real estate,
Yes, sir.
is the white female vagina.
Let's take a call. Line number 1. Wow. You're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on. Go ahead.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. Which area of the book, the code book, can give some suggestions on family matters?
Family matters? Okay.
Yes, sir. That's one question. The second question, which area of the book can also give some suggestions on, say, racial matters, or at the job,
Okay.
on the job?
Let Mr. Fuller answer the first question.
Yes, sir.
Well, actually, all of the areas of activity are interrelated. That's why in the book itself I said at some point you might have to go through the whole book. Because everything that people do in one area of activity affects other areas of activity. So I touch on, family matters in politics. Politics is nothing but interaction between people.
Right.
I touch on it in economics. I certainly touch on it in sex and whatnot. Right. But actually, overall, as it says in the Word Guide, there's no such thing as a black family. You can't have a black family in the system of white supremacy.
Yes, sir. Understand.
Okay.
Black families were abolished by the white supremacists. When? When would that happen? When the white supremacists became white supremacists.
Yeah.
See, there's no such thing as a family that's in prison. There's no such thing as a family that's in prison, and the whole world of non-white people has become a prison under the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
So you just have people who are just kind of bundled together. They tell us that we're families, but a family must have a umbrella over it that nurtures it. The white supremacist system does not nurture the family system among black people on this planet at all.
Okay.
It's anti-family. So we're really just a bunch of people just kind of herded together like cows and horses, like in the bottom of the slave ship.
Right.
You can't have a family in the bottom of the slave ship.
Hang on, caller. We have to take a break, and then we'll answer. All righty. TalkTainmentradio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio, the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentradio.com. We invite your calls, and you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, and we will make every effort to get to your call, so don't give up. And also, you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Thank you for your donations. Hey, we made it. Thank you. You did it. You did it. So we won't do that no more until next year, so I'm told. So thank you for that. We are fully funded. Also, you need to get your copy of the word guide. I understand from Mr. Fuller that you can go to producejustice.com, and it is all up, and you can order your book. The revised copy is now in, and you're good to go. You are good to go. Okay.
No, that's not the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, that's not the word guide that's been revised.
No.
Expanded.
Okay.
That's the basic book.
Basic book. Okay.
Right.
The basic book. Okay. Thank you for that correction. Since we've been speaking about correction today, I stand corrected, and I don't mind. Okay. All righty. Let's go to finish our phone call. Go ahead with your second part of your question, sir. Hello? Are you still there, caller? Okay, he's not there. Ed, let's go to line number 2. Okay, line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I have to say that I'm very thankful that you guys have succeeded in your fun goals, and I hear that you guys have been extended for the extra hour. This is great. Can I be heard?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was calling in because I wanted to give support to the bombshell that was just dropped by Mr. Fuller a few minutes ago, where he said that they are preparing to make the new black vagina into the white male anus. This is something that I've kind of noticed in the last few years in the adult video industry. I have some friends that are involved in that, and they've indicated to me that amongst black viewers, black male viewers, one of the leading genres is transgender pornography. So this is that I suspect has been pushed and is currently pushed by public figures like Caitlyn Jenner. They are always kind of making allusions to her getting with the various black men that have been affiliated with the Kardashian family. And another thing that I've noticed is that even on the social networks where people, I guess, are communicating primarily for sexual play, if you are a black male on some of these networks, some of the most frequent inboxes that you're going to get are from white males posing as white females. And this is something that I'm in fact, if you go on adult video sites, and one of the growing genres of adult videos are these interracial pornography setups where the setup is a white male is watching black male and the white female get together, and afterwards the white male jumps in, and it's completely incorrect. It's something that I'm seeing more and more of, and I'm going to suspect that Mr. Fuller is correct in his assertion that there is a greater, I guess, societal push by white supremacists to push this notion that white males are suitable sex partners for black males.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, you care to comment on that?
Well, yes. This is, the white supremacists are pushing the sexuality confusion big time. In other words, they keep adding alphabets too in the degenderization of black people, all worldwide. That's a part of their long-range plan. This is why they're pushing that more than anything. If you go and try to get a house loan or something like that, you got complications. If you go to try to get a better education, I mean, sometimes traveling thousands of miles, and say you want to go somewhere where you can get your children educated and whatnot, because you need education in order to progress. You're going to have all kinds of complications out of the white supremacists. If you go to get a student loan or anything, I mean, you have complications. If you go to get anything that's essential to your constructive well-being under the system of white supremacy, and you're a person of color, you're going to have great difficulty getting it. But now, if you want to lead the so-called degenderization parade, they will beat a path to your door. They'll probably practically knock down your house getting in it, or your hut, or your shanty, or wherever you happen to be, and say, you're a black person, and you want to help us in our degenderization program? Come aboard and write your own ticket. I mean, we will give you every resource that we possibly give. You can get the help that that have never been doing anything else, because the degenderization of you black people, of all of you non-white people throughout this planet, is a wonderful thing. You need to scrap these genders that you have, this thing about male and female. That's an old-fashioned idea. Get rid of that idea. That's pure garbage. What you need to do is expand your mind. You should become a diverse people. We are going to divert you from these old-fashioned ways that you have of looking at sexuality. Sex is whatever you want to make it. Sex is whatever you happen to be doing at the time you happen to be doing it, or just anything that you think of. That is what you should open your mind to. And not only that, that's the key to solving all of you non-white people's problems. You all have been overlooking it. You need to degenderize. I mean, let some of our white supremacist people come around you and spread this among your children and whatnot, so that they will grow up with the proper view of what sexuality is supposed to be. And they are putting the pedal to the metal on this from here to every little village among dark people everywhere on this planet. And they are galloping at a pace that you would think is unbelievable, and spending all kinds of resources to do it.
Wow.
The people who are saying, hey, we have malaria here. We have lead in our water. Oh, don't pay no attention to that. We're fixing to have a parade. Get your flags out, and let's march through this muddy village with some rainbow. I mean, you're paying attention to foolishness. You black people are wasting your time talking about poison water. That's a myth. What you need is a new sexuality. That's what will straighten you people out. You've been overlooking it. This is the Mecca. This is the holy grail of your salvation. Come aboard.
Wow. All righty. Thank you, caller, and thank you, Mr. Fuller, for pointing that out. Wow. Okay. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. Hey, why don't you do that, as a matter of fact? That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and if you'd like to call in, you still may by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's see. Let's go to the email, Gmails here. Let's see here. This is from Brian. Let's see. He says he has a quote here. Here's a quote. What can be learned from Nathaniel Hawthorne? This is the quote. I have not, as you suggest, the slightest sympathy for the slaves, or at least not half as much as for the laboring whites, who I believe are 10 times worse off than the Southern Negroes. That was dated June the 15th, 1851 by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I guess we can learn what he thought about non-whites. Secondly, work at a convention center for over 20 years, and one of the first things I could remember in the early 90s is a brother named Gerald who was working there when I first started. As we would empty the trash in the large exhibit halls, he would ask out loud to anybody who would listen, "Hey, how come there are not any black folks or brothers actively working in the exhibits as part of any of the salespeople or part of whatever association or industry that happen to be having shows or events or conventions?" End of quote. Most of the people of color were basically on the sidelines cleaning or throwing away a whole lot of waste materials and not at all active in any of the industry except for a token person here or there. He would say it right in front of the white folks, and man, he was in the right in their face with it. It's amazing. It still is this way today. Of course, Gerald got fired in the mid-90s on some other stupid thing. Anyway, I want to know what you think about that. What is this something to consider? This is from Brian from Pittsburgh. Mr. Fuller?
Here again, and I keep doing this. I guess it's me. It's got to be me because I'm the one who keeps doing it. I'm not getting you might say, the crux of some of the questions that are being asked. I guess everybody has noticed that, that might be because I'm not just picking up. I'm so used to trying to focus on the essentials of whatever is being said, because I try to train myself to do that sometimes I've gotten off track in trying to understand a person's question, particularly when it's multifaceted. When the question...
And then it could be that I may not be reading it correctly, but I am reading it word for
no,
word.
And the person who is sending it in, because sometimes the questions include a lot of things that build up to the central part of the question. And I've gotten so attuned to trying to get, when I ask myself questions, I try to get the focus of the question so that I make it right to the point.
Okay.
Without any you might call protoplasm around it or anything like that. I always try to get to the nucleus.
Okay.
So I guess I'm doing that here, and I'm wasting time even doing that now.
All right.
But I would like to, if somebody can capsulize that for me.
Okay.
Because I kind of lost it.
Okay. All righty. This is from our brother Bartholomew. He says, can you give me information on how I can contribute to the radio broadcast? Brian, if you're speaking monetarily, we have reached our goal, but I don't think that the Talktainment Radio is going to refuse that. There's a button that you can go to make your donations, but I was told this morning that the donations goal have been met for this year, so we thank you for that. If you were speaking just to ask questions, then you can just simply call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can contribute by sending me a Gmail, and as Mr. Fuller just stated, you kind of want to concise it, make it straight to the point. You know what you want to say, maybe proofread it so that you can be exact, so that he may answer your questions. Mr. Fuller would prefer to answer your questions. So just keep that in mind. Let me see what else is on the Gmail here. Mr. Fuller, this comes from Renzo. He says, I understand that we are to eat and sleep properly whenever we have time in order to be constructive. According to the code, should we also be exercising regularly and be in good shape?
Yes. Simple answer. Everything that you can possibly do. But I also say that a lot of energy is expended exercising that could be used. You could do the same type, or you probably could learn. I don't know enough about it, about physiology and whatnot, but you could probably be doing constructive work. Now, that's on page 58, 59, and 60, because they say producing something of value that can be used for a constructive purpose. That's number one. of the 4 suggestions made in the basic textbook. And that is, and part of that is because people have asked me about health and fitness as as a 10th area of activity, but I say you can include that under economics, because that's what my suggestion is on page 58, 59, and 60 under economics. And I would include that. I include health in that, even though the word health isn't mentioned. But you're healing the body. That's what health means. And you're healing the mind. So anything that would help heal the body and mind. I mean, get rid of all of the poison that is in your mind.
Yes.
Get rid of the poison that is in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you can do. But just running around in a circle or running, around in the park, that's one way of doing it, if that's the only way of doing it. But maybe get a hammer and a nail and getting up on a ladder and doing some repair work. That might do the same thing. Sometimes people who do constructive work, in a constructive manner without hurting themselves, are keeping their bodies in excellent shape.
Okay.
There are some people who are what you might call construction workers, and they're kind of looked down on sometimes by people who say, oh, he works in construction. I mean, that's not sophisticated, but it might be prolonging your existence
It just might
by doing
be.
that type of work.
Okay.
A lot of people who do what you call farm work, get out there and do farm work. I mean, lifting and loading and all like that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that is a form of exercise.
All righty.
A lot of people go and pay to do that, when really you can probably get paid for doing that.
Yeah. Okay, let's continuing on with the Gmails. This is from Chris. He says, Mr. Fuller, I hope and pray that this correspondence finds both of you in the best of health and well-being. With that said, I would like to ask a quick question for Mr. Fuller. He says, Sunday night at the BET Awards, which I did not watch in real time, Jesse Williams made a scintillating speech that pointed out a lot of mistreatment and flaws that spell out injustice and mistreatment of black people in a powerful way. I watched the video several times and watched all the hoopla surrounding it and the way his words were received. But after a few viewings, I felt let down after each viewing. It wasn't that I didn't agree with what he said, because it certainly needed to be said, but I was left with the thought of being much like a Sunday service that is usually forgotten around dinner time. Add to that, I heard no call to action by Jesse Williams' words. To use Mr. Fuller's words, I found it to be somewhat non-constructive. I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller if he saw the speech, and if so, how he felt about it. This is from Chris from Jacksonville, Florida.
According to the code, I went according to the code. I saw the speech. I happened, I wasn't looking at the entire program, but I happened to turn on the television just about the time that he started making the speech. And I said to myself, well, he's talking about solving the race problem. Well, right away, that's a plus. Because on page 58 of the textbook, it says, and the second thing that people are supposed to be doing is talking about ways and means of ending racism and replacing it with justice. It seems like Mr. Williams was at least saying some words in favor of that. So that's always a plus. But even if he hadn't been doing that, when it comes to, or the way that he said it, if people may disagree with it and all like that, when it comes to the race issue, according to the code, the compensatory counter-racist code, the portion that I have written, that comes under V.a.g.i.n.a, Victims Guaranteed Qualifications. He is qualified totally to say anything that he wants to say about race, racism, or counter-racism, because he is according to the logic, a victim of racism. And every victim of racism, every non-white person on the planet, is totally qualified to say anything that he or she chooses to say about race, racism, or counter-racism, whether anybody agrees with it or not. That's one qualification you have just by being a victim. If you're a victim of racism, you can say anything you want to about your victimization, and nobody should oppose what you're saying. They can disagree with it, but you should have the blank check, you might say, to say it.
Yes, sir.
In any forum. And I am not qualified to criticize what any non-white person says about race, racism, or counter-racism. Because if I start saying that what they shouldn't say, then I can't say what I say. And then another thing, I'm not qualified to say what they can say and what they cannot say, because no one has solved the race problem. So anybody who jumps up and says anything about race, racism, or counter-racism, meaning being against racism, in any forum that is available to him or her, that's correct according to the code. Anywhere at any time, and Neely Fuller is not qualified to say anything against it. I can say what I have to say, but not against what they say. I can only say what I want to say against racism. That's my qualification.
And this is what you said in the book, then? I mean, this is your contribution to that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's in the Word Guide, too.
In the
Victims,
Word Guide.
VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification.
And speaking about that, give out the information about the book and any other information that people may need to know.
Go to producejustice.com, and the revised, expanded edition, I've been told, of the new book is available now. Those books have not been available for about a month now, and now they are, as of last night, and also the Word Guide. They're back there for people to order.
Okay.
Producejustice.com.
Okay. And you dropped a bombshell, according to one of the callers, on the female genitalia and the white male anus. Could you repeat that for those who just may be turning in? They may not have heard that, but one caller just indicated it was a bombshell and agreed with you.
Well, I've kind of turned away from it because I wanted to be exact when I read that, because I read that in some of my notes that I had here. Mm-hmm. So I will cover that next. You put that at the top of the list for the next session.
We'll try to remember that.
Right, because I want those words to be exact.
Yes, sir.
Because I want that to go all over the world and resonate over and over again, and see if anybody rises to the occasion and say it ain't so.
All righty. Well, when you hear the music, you know what time that is. But I'll tell you what, we thank you for your calls.